I wanted to sit down with you here and discuss some reasons why you might want to get a second passport and why one passport just isn't enough. One citizenship to rely on one country for your entire life or for your entire finances, especially if you're very wealthy, is not the smartest thing to do, and there are much better options. If you don't know who I am, I'm Wealthy Expat, Rafael. We've helped over 1,000 people around the world, either through direct services, one-on-one calls. You can also book one with the link in the description after this video, and also through conferences and different speeches that I've gave. We've helped people get second citizenship all over the world, whether it's by descent, by investment, by living in a country, and getting rid of misconceptions, because a lot of people think, oh, I can't have two passports, or why do I even need a second passport, a second citizenship? And they end up realizing the benefits of being tied to one more country, not just the United States, the UK, or wherever they come from. And usually people think that second citizenship is for those that have a terrible passport. Okay, if you're from India or if you're from China and you want to start traveling the world, get a second passport. Or only for Americans, because Americans, I was an American citizen, I renounced my US citizenship. I used to pay taxes on my citizenship, so you pay taxes no matter where you go. Obviously, Americans are gonna want a second passport because the US taxes them wherever they go. Maybe that changes with Trump, but it's very unlikely that it changes, and it will continue. All the regulations, all the restrictions that the world has on US citizens. You can't open a business really easily because then you need to get the bank account for that business. You need to comply with FATCA. Overall, it's terrible to be a US citizen abroad, investing, starting businesses in other countries. That's going to continue. So Americans are going to naturally get more citizenships. A lot of them are getting citizenship by descent. So for example, Italian citizenship, Polish, Greek citizenship because their grandparents are from that country. You can also do that, and I highly recommend you to do that. A lot of Westerners are realizing, especially from countries, for example, in the European Union, the UK, Australia, they're getting those second passports because they realize it's not just about visa-free travel. And for some people, it is. For example, I've met a lot of Americans that want to go to China, or they want to go to the big Slavic country that is controversial, and I should stop saying the name of this country on my channel. If you want to go to that big controversial country, then obviously with a US passport, it's very hard. It's very hard to get a visa to go there. So getting a second citizenship, let's say in the Caribbean, St. Kitts and Nevis, or Serbia, for example, I have Serbian citizenship. You can easily go to both of those countries, the big Slavic one and China as well, without a visa, and a lot less hassle and a lot less risk. Because having a Western passport, for example, European Union or US or Canada or any of these countries, automatically puts you in a bucket. Versus when you travel with another passport, like a St. Kitts passport, a Serbian one, a Mexican one, Argentinian one, nobody really has any beef with any of these countries. Yes, there might be some local issues. The countries might not be super properly run. You might think, oh, having a Mexican passport, that's terrible because Mexico is super dangerous. And there's a lot of safe places in Mexico. And Mexico is such a big country. And also that ties into my second point on getting a second citizenship, is the ability to live in another country. You might be an American who likes the US, who with Trump, you have a positive outlook on the future of the United States, but you want to have a second option. You never know what happens in the future. When Trump changes, let's say the Democrats win again, everything might go in the direction that it was going under Biden. And you might want to leave at that point. That's why a lot of our clients get, for example, residency in the UAE, in Dubai. They open a company or they buy property just to have it as a second option. That's why a lot of people are getting residency in Paraguay. It's down there far in South America. It gives you a plan B in case your country goes to shit. Basically, we have a lot of people from the Netherlands, for example, because Netherlands, they don't allow dual citizenship, essentially. So you can't get another passport, you will lose your Netherlands passport. There are some ways of getting second citizenship in countries where dual citizenship is not allowed. For example, if you're Estonian, technically dual citizenship is not allowed, but they will never strip you of your Estonian citizenship. So you could get another passport because they can never strip you of your origin one. There are ways of getting second citizenship, but there are countries that are very strict on it. For example, the Netherlands. If you are Dutch and you want to get a second citizenship or second residency somewhere, it would be better just to get permanent residency. It would be better just to buy property in the UAE and have that as a backup option in case you don't agree with the policies of the EU. And a lot of people tell me, oh, why do you live in Europe? Why do you like spending so much time in Europe? I've been the last couple of months in Poland. I was in Estonia before. I was in Spain for a couple of months. I have a residency in Spain. I have the Spanish Golden Visa. I have multiple residency permits in Europe. A lot of people say, oh, the EU is dead. It's terrible. Why you're investing there? I'm diversified around the world. And that is what I recommend you. And I don't have one EU passport and then nothing else. I have 4. And they're all outside EU. I have multiple EU residency permits. And my plan long term is to get one of these EU passports that isn't super restrictive. And I'm still debating that. I'm not really even sure, because maybe there will be an EU-wide citizenship-based taxation or EU-wide draft or anything. So that's why, for now, I don't have EU citizenship, although I could get Malta, for example, wait a year and a half. I could go live in Spain for 2 years straight and then do that. But then I actually realized I don't like living in Spain that much, so that's why I didn't do that particular program to naturalize, because I was born in Puerto Rico, I speak native Spanish, and I can get Spanish citizenship in 2 years. I don't really like living in Spain, to be completely honest. I like Eastern European countries or Central Eastern, like Poland, and I like the lifestyle here a lot better. That's why I decided to not do that. I could have an EU passport if I wanted to. For now, I am holding back on it because I'm not sure on the future of the EU. If you have the possibility of getting an EU citizenship, I would do it. I just don't have a direct route without investing €1 million in Malta. So if I had a grandpa from Hungary and I could get Hungarian citizenship, I would 100% do that, because now I have access to live anywhere in the European Union. I have a pretty solid passport that gives me access to pretty much any country that I want to. And if I'm a US citizen that potentially wants to renounce US citizenship, but doesn't want to renounce it on a Caribbean passport because of the visa-free access, because I can't go back to the US, although the Hungarian one is a bad example because you need to be born in Hungary to have that visa-free access to the US, but you can easily get a visa with a Hungarian citizenship. It's really not that hard. So I would get an EU passport just to have more options. The more options, in my opinion, the better. The more passports you have, the better. The more countries you can call home, the better. And also it helps you because regionally, having a citizenship of that region helps. Let's say you're investing in the Caribbean and you're thinking, well, let me get a Caribbean passport in order to invest somewhere in the Caribbean. You could actually do that combined. So you can invest in the Caribbean and then get citizenship based on that investment. If it's a real estate investment, most of the time it's going to be approved projects by the government, so they will be very low value, but you can combine those. Let's say you want to invest in Southeast Asia or Cambodia. A lot of people investing in Cambodia, they're getting Cambodian citizenship by donation, although it's really not that straightforward, but you can do that. A lot of people investing in Turkey, you can invest in Turkey and then get citizenship along with that investment. Obviously, if you want to invest in countries in the European Union, having a European passport makes it 1,000 times easier. It makes it easier in terms of driving license, registering a car, for example. Regionally, having a regional passport, let's say in the Balkans, for example, I have the Serbian one. It makes it easier if I want to go invest in Bosnia, if I want to go invest in any other regional country apart from Albania or Kosovo, obviously. Those are going to be tricky, but you get what I'm saying. It just makes it easier in that specific region. Second citizenship also helps you for asset protection. Asset protection specifically against the government or against a repressive government, because that's what a lot of people are doing from countries that are traditionally very repressive, and they try to control your wealth and they try to take everything away from you. Those people traditionally have wanted Western passports. Those Eastern countries where their wealth is seized or their land is seized, for example, some countries in Africa, those people have traditionally wanted Western passports. But now people from the West are saying, actually, the West, this Western country wants to take my land, they want to take my freedom, they want to take my assets. I'm going to go get a passport in the Caribbean. I'm going to go get a passport in South America. I'm going to go live 2 years in Argentina, or maybe even less, applying by Argentinian citizenship by exception. You can apply in front of a judge and get that granted. And then I'm going to have a country where they're not seizing my land. They kind of leave me alone. They're not trying to take as much money in taxes as possible. So also in a tax standpoint, it might be helpful. So you have that second option of that other country where you could put your assets in. You could start a company under that citizenship if you're afraid of a repressive government. You can start a company in a new country under the new citizenship. It obviously doesn't remove your tax liability. So if you're a US citizen and you get an Argentinian passport and you open a business abroad, you're still a US citizen. You still need to pay taxes to the IRS, you still need to report everything, but it gives you a certain layer of privacy and a certain layer of protection in case the US starts seizing basically assets all over the world. Also, having a second citizenship or multiple other citizenships gives you family options, gives you family security for the future generations. Some of our clients, for example, they say, I don't need a second passport right now. I don't need a second citizenship, but I'm going to get Portuguese golden visa so that my kids in the future, if they want to study in Europe, if they want to live in Europe, if they want to be European citizens, maybe the European Union shifts to being less controlling in the future just to have it as a second option, then my children will have access to the European Union as citizens. And they won't have any issues. They will have, let's say, the client's passport, let's say that's Canadian, and they will also have the Portuguese in a couple of years, and they have those two options, those multiple countries, because you have the European Union as well as Canada, you have pretty much visa-free access all over the world, so they're thinking long-term. And I'm thinking the same. I'm thinking, what passports and citizenships are my children going to get? Most likely the mother of those children is going to be an EU citizen, most likely from one of the Eastern EU states, so they will have EU citizenship by their mother essentially, and they will have a bunch of other citizenships through their father. And most likely we will live in multiple countries around the world, so they will acquire new citizenships. And that's essentially the plan for the children. A lot of our clients actually don't really care that much about second citizenship. They don't really care that much about having a second passport, but they do care about their children having a second passport and more options, because you never know what your children are going to do. A lot of people, that's why they don't renounce US citizenship, because they want to renounce US citizenship, but they don't know if maybe my child wants to work in Silicon Valley, or they want to work for Tesla, or they want to work for any US company. It's obviously going to be easier to work in the United States as a US citizen, so they don't renounce because their future children might need that US citizenship and they don't want to cut off that time. So you want to think long-term, extremely long-term as well, the same way that you think about your investments. Oh, I'm going to invest in this country in order to get a return in the next 10 to 15 years. The same thing happens with your children and with citizenship. I would also get second citizenship programs and having one more passport through one of these investment programs, which is usually what we focus on when we talk to our clients. If you want to book a call, the link is in the description. We can go specifically into what you need. You never know when these programs will close. There's a lot of opportunities around the world now to get a second citizenship, and that's why I keep getting these citizenships. I see an opportunity, I get it. I see an opportunity, I get it. Because you never know when they're going to change. I remember, for example, Hungary in the European Union. Maybe you don't care about the EU, but I personally like it. They had a permanent residency program for 300,000 euros invested into bonds. And you would get permanent residency with that bond investment. That was removed a couple of years ago, and a lot of people got that and they got permanent residency, and they didn't get citizenship because they weren't so sure about the EU, but they wanted that permanent access to the European Union. That's an example of a program that was closed. Or programs that increase in price. Although obviously with inflation, same-kid citizenship going from 150,000 to 250,000 isn't that big of a deal because inflation is going to kill you anyway. But most of these programs do increase in price. Restrictions on these programs. So for example, more interviews, more documents you need to submit. Turkey's a great example of this. Getting Turkish citizenship by investment was extremely easy. A year or two ago, you just needed a couple of documents. You made the investment, you got the citizenship in like 3 or 4 months. Now it takes 10 months, more than a year to get the citizenship with a ton of more documentation. So if you see an opportunity to get a second passport, you make sure that it's legitimate, obviously, that people have done this and it's absolutely legal. You want to get it as soon as possible if you have the money to invest into it. Most people that we talk to, they have multiple millions to invest. You get that citizenship, and then even if you keep it in your apartment or your house and you don't use that particular passport, you always have it. You're a citizen for life and you can always renew that passport in the future. If you want to make some investments into that country, you have the option in the future, easier to do that. If that country, for example, starts forming alliances with other countries that you like, maybe like Montenegro, for example. A lot of people got citizenship in Montenegro. Now it's no longer possible. Montenegro will more likely join the European Union. A lot of Chinese people, a lot of Indians, they got citizenship in Montenegro through the Citizenship by Investment program, and soon they will be citizens of the EU. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're an EU citizen that doesn't trust the EU at all. You want a second option. You can invest in South America, for example. Let's say you get residency in Argentina, or residency in Paraguay, or residency in Colombia, or any specific country where you're interested in. There are countries that I recommend more. For example, Colombia tends to be one that I don't recommend that much. I recommend more Mexico, Argentina, Paraguay. You get residency in one of these places, and then you realize, actually, it's time to move there and get that second passport, and you've already done the work before, a couple of years earlier. And now you just move to one of these countries, and then you naturalize in one of these countries. That happens a lot in Uruguay, for example. A lot of Europeans are retiring to Uruguay, although Uruguayan citizenship, I don't really recommend it because on your passport, it still says your origin citizenship. So if you're from Germany, for example, you get a Uruguayan passport. On the nationality in the passport, it will say that you're German, and it confuses the hell out of people, especially border guards. So you probably don't want to get a Uruguayan passport, but in terms of residency, in terms of a place to go around the world, you could have the Uruguayan residency and then activate it whenever you want. And the same goes for Dubai and the UAE. You have that residency so you can activate it whenever you want in the future. I truly think in this day and age, having one passport, one citizenship is not enough, especially if you're wealthy. A lot of people have 5 cars. You don't have one car, although all you need is really one car. Why do you have 5? Because of diversification. Because you want to have options to drive around the day, the same way I see passport. You have options, you have them there just in case at any point. If you want to see all the countries around the world that offer second citizenship where you can easily get a second passport in exchange for your investment, you definitely want to check out this video right here, 11 countries giving citizenship out easily in 2025. Check it out right here, and remember to book a call with the link in the description.